The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost. Banking for better. Sign up today. Edge.bet for SGPN and get a $25 deposit bonus. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Tuesday night, May 27th, around 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm as always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the second round of the French Opens. We're going to break down the men's matches taking place on Wednesday and Thursday. For that, though, I want to recap what happened in the first round. Overall, a horrible, I'd say, round for us, both on the men's side and the women's side. Not good. In fact, we had a bunch of plays that I'd say we're actually on decent pace, and then unfortunately everything fell apart. But either way, ended up having a really bad lock and dog segment for both episodes. For the lock and dog in the men's episode, ended up having a loss of a parlay. Had Offner money line, parlay with Martera money line at minus 130. Offner won in 4. Struff still terrible. Martera, though, was against Walton, who had not played a clay match in about 2 months, and Martera lost in 5. So I picked up a loss there for the lock. For the dog, we had the Brooksby Faria over 3.5 sets and Draper 3-0 at plus 122. Brooksby and Faria got there easily as they split the first 2 sets. Draper somehow lost the first set to Bellucci. He no-showed the first, I'd say, 30 minutes of the match or so, and then he woke up and dominated. So Draper ended up no-showing the first, once again, 20, 30 minutes. He actually had a chance to get back into the first set as he was down 5-1, got a break back, and then eventually had a couple break points to get back on serve. Didn't convert, though, and did lose the first set. So picked up a loss on those two. For the women's episode, not any better. For the lock, we had Monet plus 5.5 at minus 130 against Bolter, and that line actually closed to 4.5. She won a set and still did not cover 5.5. So that was definitely annoying. She won the first set in a breaker and then got absolutely destroyed in the final 2 sets. So we thought it'd be a competitive match. I thought Bolter would be potentially vulnerable to dropping a set, and she did, but it didn't matter because she dominated the last 2 sets so easily that Monet wasn't even close. So picked up a loss there. And for the dog in the women's episode, had Haddad Maia team total over 12.5 at plus 105. Pretty much the same story as the Monet match because Haddad Maia we thought would be in a war with Baptiste. Thought it'd probably go 3 sets, and it did go 3 sets, but Haddad Maia got destroyed in the final set as well, and she just completely unraveled. Won the first set, then eventually was up a break, actually, early in the second set, and got destroyed. So pretty similar story there for the women's picks, where we picked a player to keep the match close or at least have a competitive battle. It was early, and then the player we ended up backing got destroyed in the third set. So either way, not a good first round for us in the men's or women's episodes. And it was unfortunate because we ended up having a lot of life in all those plays, and they all just completely went up in flames. So kind of annoying there is what it is. Look for a much better episode here in the second round. Anyway, time to get into the recap, though, of the first round before we get into that. I do want to remind you once again, though, that we do have a brand new, I'd say, event going on for the SGP guys because they're going to be ripping packs live on air next Monday night. They'll be breaking a case of Panini Prisms with dabs, and you can get 10% off your favorite team with promo code SGPN. So go to sportsgamble.com/break to get in on the action. Anyway, starting off with the actual recap of what happened in the matches on Sunday. So for the matches, you had Paul, who ended up beating Muller in 4 sets in the first matchup, ended up seeing Medjedovic beat Majcik in straight sets. So Navone beat Nakashima, not too much of a shocker there, but Nakashima, once again, not having the best of years. Fuchsovics beat Schoolcats, Pericard beat Bergs. Really insane choke job by Bergs in that third set breaker. We know Pericard's a great server, really bad returner. Bergs was up 5-0 in the third set breaker, and he lost 7 straight points. 7 straight. And Pericard can't really return. So a really bad choke job there by Bergs in that third set. Couldn't recover, and he did lose in 4. Opelka beat Hijikata in the fourth set breaker to win the match. Saw Carreño Busta look good. Ended up beating Comasanya in straight sets. Kind of a shocking outcome. Not the fact that he won, but the fact that he beat Comasanya in straight sets when he was in good form for the last couple of months. But either way, nice win there for Busta. Jumping around, you saw Capriva beat Montero in 5. Montero's been a mess for the last couple of months, and it feels like every match he loses is going to the distance, and unfortunately, he's on the wrong side of every one of those matches. But Capriva came back in, I'd say, solid fashion in the fifth set after dropping the third and fourth, but was able to win that one in 5. So Musetti dominated against Hoffman. Saw Galan beat Royer in 5. Very competitive matchup there. Galan, I believe, was the lucky loser, I think, and he ended up filling in for Baena, and he got the job done there in 5. Cerundolo J.M. Sarundalo beat Mickelson in straight sets, ended up seeing Tiafoe beat Sfoon in straight sets. Besides that, ended up seeing Brooksby beat Faria in 4. Shelton beat Sonego in 5 and ended up actually getting a bye into the third round because Gaston dropped out. So Shelton not only won in comeback fashion, after being down 2-1, he got rewarded with an extra round off because you saw Gaston drop out of the event. So nice job by Shelton, and now he moves on into the third round unopposed. So Borges beat Jacquet in 5 after dropping the first 2 sets and coming back against the home crowd there in 5 sets. Saw Hals beat Makic. Makic once again got injured. Unfortunate, but it's a common theme in his career so far. Moving on to the matches on Monday. So Tabilo beat Kaza in 5. So Ruud beat Ramos Vinolas in straight sets. Gaston beat Blanchet in 5, then dropped out of the event. Court ended up beating Darderi in 4. You saw Baez go up 2-0 in 2 breakers, then lost the match as Kecmanovic came all the way back and won in 5. Nishioka, another guy is injured all the time, got injured again. He dropped out down 2 sets in the third set. So Alcaraz beats up Pieri. Saw Fekina beat Llamas Ruiz in 4. Saw Tsitsipas beat Echeverry in straight sets. A lot of people thought that it was going to be a potentially long match, and people thought that Echeverry was live potentially to win the match. Didn't happen, and either way, you ended up seeing Tsitsipas win pretty comfortably, actually, in that match. After Echeverry made a pretty good run to the semis in his last event in Hamburg, but ended up seeing Tsitsipas roll as he won in straight sets. Fritz, though, ended up losing in 4. Damn, Fritz is so unimpressive for a top 10 guy. Really, really underwhelming as a top 5 guy, and I know that Altmaier did beat Sinner in the French Open a couple years ago, but Fritz wasn't even close in the last 2 sets there. He got destroyed, a 6-3, 6-1 to end it, so it wasn't even a fluky win. Fritz just got dominated for the last 2 sets, so nice job there by Altmaier. So Rune beat Agut despite dropping the first set, while Reichel lost to Fernley in straight sets, ended up seeing Diallo destroy Sarundalo in one of the bigger shockers of the first round. Ended up seeing Sarundalo be in good form on clay for most of the season, and Diallo showed up and said, plus 550, don't mind if I do. Ended up winning in straight sets as he was able to really dominate with the serve. Believe he only got broken 1 time. He only faced 1 break point in the entire match. So Diallo ended up winning 70% of the first serve points, 60% of the second serve points, and ended up coasting. So Sarundalo, which was a very popular pick to make the semis by a lot of people on social media, I completely disagreed. I thought it was a really bad draw for Sarundalo in the same quarter as Zverev and Joker, and he had Diallo in the first round, and then Griekspoor in the second round. I was very anti-Sarundalo for the event, and that was definitely right because he had a very tough draw in the first round, and he ended up losing in straight sets. A bit of a shocker there. Offner beat Struff in 4. Struff is still useless. He's been so bad for the last year and a half. He's got to try challengers or something. ITFs, try something. Got to start from scratch. He's been really bad. Shapo beat Martinez in straight sets. Gasquet won. He prolonged his career as he won in a bagel in the 4th set. His reward is Sinner, which is not fun, but either way, it does prolong his career. So Misolic beat Boo in 4. Saw Jari lose to Fees in 4. It was a fun match, though. Jari did a good job of digging deep to win that third set. But then eventually Fees, the better player, won in 4. And besides that, you ended up seeing Griekspoor win in 4 against Giron, and you ended up seeing Sinner beat Rinderknech in 3 sets. Moving on to the matches on the men's side for Tuesday. Saw Kovacevic lose to a lucky loser in Gomez in 4. Ended up seeing de Minaur beat De Gere in 3. The big shocker, though, which is not too shocking if you actually follow his career in the French Open, Medvedev imploded again, and he ended up losing in 5 to Norrie. He lost a couple years ago to Seaworth Wild in the first round, did the same thing here again. The script of the match was absolutely insane because Medvedev was actually coasting early as he was up, I believe it was 5-3 in the first set, and immediately fell apart. And then he fell apart a couple of times, actually, in the match. So Medvedev was up 5-3 in the first set, broken 2 times in a row, lost the first set. Then he immediately went down in the second set, 4-0. So Medvedev went from up 5-3 to losing 7 games in a row. You saw Norrie come back, win the second set. Then you saw Medvedev dominate the end of the third set and the entire fourth set as he won 6-4, 6-1. So you figured, okay, Medvedev, despite being, once again, a clown early in the match, figured it out, and he'll probably end up winning. Because most of the time when a guy drops the first 2 sets and wins the next 2, usually that guy also wins the 5th. Not always, but usually that's how it goes. So Medvedev was up a break, ended up going up 5-3. So he was serving for the match again, and like the first set, lost 4 games in a row, got double broken, and lost the match. So Medvedev once again just punted 2 sets, just clearly. Medvedev, who was having actually a decent clay year for his standards, imploded again in the French Open. Very nice win by Norrie. They faced off a couple weeks ago, and you ended up seeing Medvedev actually beat him in straight sets in Rome. That was, once again, about 2.5 weeks ago. But Norrie got revenge on the biggest scale, was able to beat Medvedev, and was able to win in 5. Really just an insane choke job by Medvedev on multiple occasions. But nice job by Norrie for sticking with it. Got the job done there. I see Gojo asking about the actual emergency status of Medvedev with the amount of good young talent on tour. Medvedev really hasn't won anything in the last year or two, and I've mentioned it many times on the show. It's why I stopped giving him out in outrights, because it's not worth it. He doesn't actually win anymore. It's really a weird moment where I feel like he was mentally tougher earlier in his career, or at least he had more, I'd say, calmness to his game, where it feels like now when things go poorly, he unravels. At least back in the day, he was a little bit more even keel. Besides that, though, his game is pretty, I'd say, one-dimensional. He stands very far back, tries to get every ball in play, and if you can get him on the defensive, you can come forward and beat him. And it feels like he's not made any adjustments over the course of his career. I think Medvedev might have to change something, but I've said this for years, and it feels like he's not changed anything. Do I think he can get back into top 10? Maybe, but honestly, I have no faith in him to do anything because he hasn't done anything in the last year and a half. So I'm going to pass on Medvedev with the upside moving forward. He's been on a downswing for a while. It's been really bad, and that was a brutal loss to Norrie in the first round of the French Open on Tuesday. Moving on, though, to the actual other matches that happened on the Tuesday card. So Dimitrov, who won the first 2 sets, lost the third and said, you know what, I got a plane to catch. I'm out of here. And he left. So he was up 2-1 and quit because of injury. Had injuries all year. Really tough to see, but not too shocking. I'll put it that way. But Quinn advances despite only winning 1 set. So Bublik beat Duckworth in straight sets. Zverev beat Tien in straight sets. Saw De Jong come back from 2 sets down against Pizarro as he won in 5. Mensik beat Muller in 4 and then teased the crowd afterwards, who were kind of giving him a hard time the entire match. So Walton beat Martera in 5. Herbert beat Bonzi in 5. So Djokovic looked good. Rocha beat Basilashvili in 5. Rublev beat Harris in 4. Draper beat Bellucci in 4. Arnaldi came back from 2 sets down against Felix. Felix hurt his foot. A classic Felix loss of looking good early, then imploding. Arnaldi, though, looked good, though. And Arnaldi was able to, once again, come back from the brink as he was able to win pretty comfortably in the final 3 sets. But Felix had a foot issue for the last 3 sets, and you clearly tell he was playing pretty well. But Arnaldi's ball striking is so clean that it felt like he just wasn't going to hit enough errors to just hand away free points. And Felix, when he was not getting as much oomph on the serve, and the fact is he did fault a lot, it felt like Arnaldi took control, and he was able to win in 5. But Medvedev and Felix losing in the first round of the French Open kind of sounds par for the course. Sounds pretty right to me. But either way, Felix, for the second straight Grand Slam, loses after winning the first 2 sets. So there you go. But nice comeback there by Arnaldi. Saw Gaboli destroy Cilic. Saw Moutet beat Tabor. Couple of crazy shots made by Moutet in that match. I recommend looking at the highlights there. Hurkacz made the final against Joker. Choked it in Geneva and got rewarded by getting his ass kicked by Fonseca in the first round. Won a grand total of 8 games. Ouch. Pretty rough. And you saw the first round end on a high note as Delian was up 2 sets against Monfils, and Monfils came back in front of the home crowd. So nice job by him, winning the final set 6-1. Pretty fun 4th set. Went to a breaker. Monfils hit the winner down the line, and at that point it was over, and Monfils routed him. So nice comeback there by Monfils, and that wraps up a pretty jam-packed first round. Apologies, it was a pretty long recap, but of course we do have 3 days to recap instead of 2. So either way, pretty fun first round. Not for me, because I lost every pick that I had, but hopefully we'll bounce back here into the second round. Anyway, before we get into any of the actual picks or the previews of the matches in the second round, reminder that we're brought to you by our sponsor, Edge. It's the first time banking for better. They're ensuring that all your gambling transactions are approved. Usage fees, no minimums, earn cash rewards as well. 100% approval from the deposit sign up today. Edge.bet, promo code SGPN. When you deposit $100, Edge match deposit. Edge.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy because they are going long for the NBA Plus with their extender bonus. Hop in game 1, and the longer the series goes, the bigger the bonus bets. Enter at once again, Underdog Fantasy, and you want to use the promo code SGPN to get a special pick any first time visit offer up to 1K bonus cash on fantasy promo code Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. We also have different promo codes for the NBA Gambling Podcast, for the MLB Gambling Podcast. Use SGPN, use MLB SGPN, or use NBA SGPN for any of those discount codes to access your special pick any first time deposit offer up to 1K. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished recapping the first round of the French Open. Time to move on into the second round of the French Open. Starting off with the matches that are taking place on Wednesday, of course. First match, you have Tabilo taking on Popyrin. Honestly, a pretty fun match on paper. You're looking at Popyrin at about minus 200. Tabilo's around plus 175. Spread minus 3.5 for Tabilo, plus 3.5. Minus 3.5 for Popyrin, plus 3.5 for Tabilo. The over-under is around 36.5, 37.5. And for the set wagering, you can find over 3.5 sets of minus 220, over 4.5 sets of plus 190. For the set spread, you have Tabilo minus 1.5 sets, or plus 1.5 sets, at minus 135. Popyrin minus 1.5 sets is plus 105. So for the matchup, should be fun. Both guys have what I think should be a pretty, I don't want to say similar play style, but I can see a very competitive matchup unfolding. Tabilo won 5 against Kaza, and Popyrin did win in 2.5 sets as Nishioka quit. But I think that Popyrin is a worthy favorite. However, Tabilo, I think, is pretty solid on clay. And I do think a guy that can give Popyrin potential problems here. I think you're looking at a spot where you might end up seeing this go the distance. I wouldn't be surprised if it went 5. Don't mind the potential over on this one. Think for this matchup, though, I think Popyrin should win, but I can see a path for Tabilo. Tabilo does have a pretty unique play style as a lefty. We know Popyrin can definitely lose sets on his own by just punting a bunch of free points away on unforced errors. So I see Tabilo making it interesting. Think he's alive to win it. I'll go Tabilo to lose, but I see it being close. I'm on the team total over for Popyrin here. I think it'll be a close matchup. Think he'll find a way to sneak away with the win. If it went 5, I would not be shocked. A pretty fun match to start the actual round here in the French Open, but overall I like it, so I'll go with the over in that one. Moving on to the next matchup. We are going to jump around a bit, by the way. We have Cerundolo taking on Medjedovic. This is the other Cerundolo, JM Cerundolo. For this one, Medjedovic, decent favorite here, as he is around minus 230. You have Cerundolo at plus 190. For the spread, minus 3.5 for Medjedovic, plus 3.5 for Cerundolo. The over-under is set at 38.5. Now, JM Cerundolo had a nice, easy win in the first round, as he was able to beat Mickelson, who's not that good on clay. Did have a decent run in a clay challenger a couple weeks ago, but Cerundolo dominated the entire match. Only dropped down 9 games in the entire match. Medjedovic, though, had a nice win against Majcik, who's a pretty decent clay player as well. But Medjedovic was not really in great form before that event, and I do wonder how this is going to unfold. Faced off one time, actually, in French Open qualifying a couple years ago, and Medjedovic did win in 3, as every set alternated 6-3s. So for this one, I see it being close. Medjedovic has more firepower. Cerundolo is going to try to stand way behind the baseline and try to keep points long with his looping forehand. But Medjedovic can volley. It wouldn't shock me if Medjedovic actually came to the net a lot in this one, and I can see him putting away points early. Cerundolo is also really not a good server. I'll go Medjedovic in this one, but I do think the value might be Medjedovic to win and both players to win a set. I think that Medjedovic will win, but of course he's still full of unforced errors. I can see a set where he unravels, see Cerundolo win it, but I do think that Medjedovic is the better player, and you can find Medjedovic, by the way, to win with both players to win at least one set, available on FanDuel at around plus 146. I like it. I think he's the better player, and I do think his serve will be the biggest X factor for him in this one. So I'll go with, once again, Medjedovic to win with both players to win a set at around plus 146 for my main thought on this match. Moving on to the next matchup. You have a matchup between, you know what? We'll go with Khachanov against Ofner, a rematch, actually, of last week. They faced off in Geneva and ended up seeing Ofner win. Ofner did not get broken in the entire match against Struff. He should have. He had to fight off 11 break points, but Struff is that bad at returning, it didn't matter. But he won in 4, and Khachanov had a nice win, never really in doubt against Vukic, who's been really bad all year. Kind of a bye. I would group him in with Struff. He's been that bad. So both guys had really underwhelming first-round opponents, and now they have a massive step of competition based on current form here in the second round. Now, for this one, Khachanov is a decent favorite to get revenge here, as Khachanov around minus 230. Ofner's plus 190. For the spread, minus 4.5 for Khachanov, plus 4.5 for Ofner. The over-under is at 38.5. Now, I think that Khachanov is going to get revenge. I think he will win. this match. However, I see it being close. I think there'll be at least 4 sets, and Offner served very well. Said before, did not get broken against Struff. Yes, he had a lot of chances to get the fight off from Struff, but still, the first serve can be dangerous when he actually lands it. The issue is he doesn't land it enough. I see Kashanov winning, but I see a close matchup here. It's kind of the same script that I had for the last match. I see Kashanov winning and both players to win a set. I like the over, though, for this one. 38.5 feels pretty low when after serving that well. I can see a decent amount of potential long sets, maybe a breaker. I see 37.5 on FanDuel. I like it. Give me the over in this match. I think it'll be close. I think Kashanov avenges the loss in Geneva, but I do think the serving will be too good for I'd say for that many non-competitive sets to take place. I think each set should be at least 6-3, maybe a 6-4. I think there will be at least a breaker in that one. And with that being the case, you have a lot of leeway towards the total. 37.5, though, feels a bit low. I'll give me the over for that one as my main play for that match. Moving on to the next matchup. Going to look at the matchup between, you know what? We'll go with Hallis against Kekmanovic, which should be a fun one. So for this one, you have Kekmanovic, who's a decent favorite in this one, as he is around, finding the price here really quickly. He's around minus 180. You have Hallis at plus 155. For the spread, minus 2.5 for Kekmanovic, plus 2.5 for Hallis. The over-under is at 40.5. So for this one, should be a very fun matchup. They've never faced off before. Hallis, though, had a lucky break in the first round because he ended up seeing Makic, who was injured, get injured again, and he dropped out. As for Kekmanovic, he had a war. Lost the first 2 sets in breakers to Baez, came back and won the last 3 sets pretty convincingly as he won in 5. Baez, though, has been in really bad form over the last couple of weeks, and as a result, you saw Kekmanovic get the job done there in 5. Now, similarly to what I said about the last couple matches, I see another very competitive matchup. Both guys, I think, have a pretty good serve. I can see them being streaky. We know that both guys definitely have talent. The issue is the consistency can be a serious problem for both guys. I see another close matchup. Hallis does have the crowd support, but it really hasn't mattered that much for the French players up to this point, with the exception of Herbert. But that was against Bonzi. That really didn't matter because that was 2 Frenchmen. But I think you're looking at a spot where the crowd support might help Hallis early. Think Kekmanovic can fight back. I see another 5-setter here. I see a close matchup. I know I'm kind of sounding like a broken record, but I see a decent amount of close matchups here, at least in rapid succession of each other on the calendar or on the schedule. So give me the over in this one. I think it'll be close. If I had to pick, I'll probably end up going Kekmanovic in 5, but I think it'll be a 5-set marathon. Give me the over in that one. Moving on, jumping around a bit more. For this one, we'll go with Tiafoe against Busta, which should be a pretty interesting matchup because I think most people thought it would be Comasanya in the spot. For the actual pricing, Busta is around plus 155. You have Tiafoe at around minus 180. For the spread, minus 3.5 for Tiafoe, plus 3.5 for Busta. The over-under is at 38.5 games. Now, looking at the history in the head-to-head, they have faced off one time. It was in clay in 2018, and Tiafoe destroyed him 6-2, 6-3. Busta, though, was really not playing in good form at all recently, and then he ended up having a nice win against Comasanya. For Tiafoe, he's been playing okay. Kind of a common theme, though, in Europe. He tends to win a match, then he loses in the second round. Kind of how it goes for Tiafoe this season, but the point is he has been, in my opinion, the better player of the season. Busta's been mostly in qualifying of events, and then he's tried to make it into the main draw. Tiafoe, though, I think is better. 3.5 games, though, does feel kind of steep. I know it's even money at all, but I do think you're looking at what should be a close matchup. I'll go Tiafoe in this one. Think he might win in 4. I don't mind Tiafoe to win both players to win a set again, which has been a very good prop for us in Grand Slams in the past. I'll run it back here. I don't want to lay 190 with Tiafoe. I don't trust him on the spread enough because I know that Tiafoe can easily punch sets. But I do think that him to win and both players to win a set of plus 154 is a good deal. I'll take that as my main thought for that one. Moving on to the matches taking place on Thursday. For this one, I'm going to start off with the matchup between, you know what, we'll go with Dimmenauer against Bublik. Dimmenauer's a decent favorite here, as Dimmenauer is around about minus 1,000. Bublik's around plus 600. Faced off a couple times before, and it has been very ugly for Bublik. He has never won a set. He is currently 0-4 in sets. He had a retirement in 2021. 2 games in, not going to count it. But either way, point is ended up seeing a pretty lopsided scoreline when they face off. Now, Dimmenauer looked good against De Geer, had a breaker in there. As for Bublik, though, he looked good against Duckworth, been good recently on clay. Won a clay challenger as he won in Torino, and then lost in Hamburg to Perricard in a breaker and a 6-4. Thing is, de Minaur should win. Do I think 1,000 is fair? Not really. I get it. I think he's going to win, but it does feel pretty disrespectful, at least for a price. I think if I had to go for anything here, maybe I'll bank on Bublik to make one set competitive. He's been pretty decent on clay this season. I understand the argument against Bublik is how willing de Minaur is to rally, and how Bublik's shot selection can be very problematic. But I do think based on the actual, I'd say, path of the match, at least how I'm playing it out in my head, I see one competitive set here. The problem is the total's at 33.5 games instead of 32.5. I think it's going to be tough, but I might actually consider Bublik plus the games. I'm not going to bet anything in this match. I'm not interested. But do I think there's a path where de Minaur wins like 6-4, 6-3, 7-6, like a competitive three-setter? I can see that. I think that it's a pretty big number for Bublik, who can find his groove serving. He has been good on clay. I kind of wish de Minaur's team total was at 18.5 instead of 19.5. But I think for this one, I think de Minaur wins in straight sets. But you know what? I'll pick it to be competitive, similar to what we saw against De Gere. It's a straight set win with a breaker in there, and he does not cover the spread, but he does win. But I don't want to lay 7.5. So I'll pass on that. I'll go with Bublik plus 7.5. I'm not going to bet it, though. Not really interested in that one. Moving on to the matchup between Moutet and Djokovic. Joker's minus 1,500, give or take, and Moutet's around plus 800. Moutet, though, we saw look really good in his match in the first round, as he was able to get the job done in a pretty entertaining matchup because he kept trying out some crazy shots, and they were working for him as he won straight sets. However, Joker looked very good. Now, McDonald is not good on clay at all, and Joker coasted to a 6-3 win in each set. But we've seen them face off before. Face off in Rome last year. Joker did win 6-3, 6-1. Moutet's cell phone went off mid-match there. Face off in Paris on hardcore 2019. Joker did win 7-6, 6-4. Now, Joker, once again, had a great title run in Geneva, and he ended up having a bye, basically, in the first round. Do I think Moutet can keep the match somewhat close, or do I think he gets destroyed? Now, Moutet's always the kind of weird guy to predict for his matches because his unorthodox style and shot selection can cause problems to anybody if he's on point, and it was definitely on point in the first round. Now, Joker, I think, should win, obviously. The thing is, do I think this is going to be close? And I think you can make an argument that Moutet can hang in there. I think Joker wins, but I don't want to lay the 7.5 or the 8.5. I mean, you can find Moutet at 8.5 at like minus 140. I don't mind that, but the over-under's interesting because it's at about 31.5, give or take, which I think can be doable towards an over, but you need at least one long set. So I think I'll go with Moutet instead plus the games, kind of similar to the Bublik prediction against de Minaur. I think that Moutet, with the crowd behind him being French, I think the unique playstyle can definitely take Joker into some pretty weird moments in the match where maybe he finds himself up a break in a set or so, and I think you might end up getting it to be somewhat close. I'll go with the games here for Moutet. He looked good. I think Joker is going to win, obviously, probably in straight sets, but I don't want to lay that number. I'll go with Moutet plus the games in that one. Probably not going to bet it, but should be fun. I'll be watching that match. Moving on, though, to the next match we're going to talk about. You have a matchup between okay, so for this one, we'll go with Monfils against Draper. Draper's minus 455. Monfils is plus 333. We saw Draper look bad early in the first set. Then he ended up dominating as he won the last 3 sets, only dropping 7 games. Monfils, though, went to 5 sets against Delian, who we know is a clay specialist, but still a challenger level guy. A good win for Monfils. Didn't look great, but either way, did end up getting the job done, which is all that matters. Was not in great form before that, though, as he ended up losing to Rublev in Monte Carlo, then canceled Munich, then ended up retiring against Rublev in Madrid, then lost to Fekina in Hamburg, and then beat Delian coming back down from 2-0. So not really the form you want to see Monfils in. Yes, he kind of figured it out at the end, but he was against a weaker opponent who has no firepower. I think it's a bad matchup for Monfils. I think especially off a 5-set marathon, when he's not played many matches recently, is going to be problematic for him in this one. Now, the argument is, do I like Draper to win in straight sets, which you can find at around, look at the actual pricing really quickly. You can find that at plus 135. I know Draper just screwed us by dropping a set to Bellucci, but I do think it's a pretty rough matchup for Monfils because Draper wants to rally and he has more firepower. And the fact is he's more consistent. So I do think that Monfils is going to lose. I wonder if fatigue will play a factor. But either way, I think Draper wins probably in straight sets. Maybe it's close for a little bit, but I think eventually you're going to see Draper break away. I think that Monfils, 16.5 games. If he wins a set, can I see him dropping 3 sets like 6-3, 6-3, 6? I think I can see that, actually. I mean, I'm just trying to play the numbers game here with 16.5. You need him to win less than 11 games in the final 3 sets if he wins one. I think that's reasonable. I don't mind Monfils team total under at 11 at about 16.5. I think that he loses in 4, maybe 3, but I do think there are a couple of lopsided sets in store for Monfils. And if he ends up unraveling, he's not going to quit because he's in his home country. He'll go down with the ship, and maybe he ends up losing in a bagel if he ends up running out of gas completely. Give me the Monfils team total under at around 16.5 as my main thought for that one. Draper annoyed me today. I agree with you, D. Johnson, but at the end of the day, it's a bad spot for Monfils, who's barely played. He's up there in years, and he has 1 day off in between matches off a 5-setter against a challenger-level guy. Not a great performance, but we'll see what happens. See a question, by the way, from Andrew asking about Musetti straight sets with Alcaraz straight sets. I'm not going to stop you. Musetti should beat Galán in a straight sets. I believe they played last year in the French Open, and he did end up winning in 3. And Alcaraz against Morozin. Morozin actually did beat Alcaraz on clay a couple years ago. Maybe get one competitive set here, but Alcaraz looked good in the first round. Morozin, we know, has a lot of unforced error issues, and I think that Alcaraz should win in straight sets. If you're asking which guy I'm more concerned about, I think it would be Alcaraz, because Galán's off a 5-setter against a challenger guy as a lucky loser. Musetti should kill him, if we're being honest here. Alcaraz, though, we've seen him lose to Morozin on clay before. I think he should win in straight sets, but if he dropped one, I wouldn't be totally shocked. But I do think Alcaraz and Musetti both should win in straight sets there. Moving on to the next matchup. I'm going to do one more for this one. We'll go to the matchup between Lehecka and Fokina. For this one, Fokina's a decent favorite here. He's around minus 130 or so, give or take. You have Lehecka at around plus 110, plus 115. For the over-under, I see 38.5. Now, we saw Fokina win against Llamas Ruiz in the first round, as he lost a breaker, but he was able to win in 4. Lehecka, though, looked really good against Thompson. Thompson's not a great clay player. Not awful, but not good on clay. Either way, the point is, should Fokina be favored? I get it. However, Lehecka is 2-0 lifetime. No meetings on clay, but I do want to point out he has been good in the head-to-head. I will go with the dog here. I think that there's some value on Lehecka. I think it is a pure coin flip for me. Think that you can make an argument for either guy. We know that Fokina, though, does have issues when it comes to his serve at times and his overall mental toughness. Lehecka, I think with the forehand and the serve, should manufacture more free points over the course of this matchup. And Fokina might end up going the distance here. Maybe it goes 5. But I think Lehecka, in the grand scheme of things, is a better player than Fokina. Maybe not on clay, but I like the plus money. I think there's value here. I'll fade Fokina at this price. Give me Lehecka at plus money, at what should be a very close battle between two guys that, once again, can find different openings in the matchup to succeed. Give me Lehecka, though, for the plus money in that one. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the second round preview of the French Open. Time to move on into the actual lock and dog picks. For that, the reminder, they're brought to you by Rhythm, because they're the home of ATP picks props. Are available for the NBA playoffs, for the golf cards, for baseball, for WNBA as well. You can also use a free trial, 7-day free trial, so check it out. And a reminder, they have 2 discount codes, one for the month, one for the year. For the month, use the code SGPN25 for a quarter off of your subscription. For the year, use the code SGPN50 for half off of your subscription. A reminder, though, get the 7-day free trial by going to sportsgamble.com/RATHMM. We're also brought to you by Circle Ultimate Fantasy Ball Giveaway, because Circle Resort and Casino is giving away the ultimate fantasy ball experience for a 12-person league in Vegas to draft your teams, and you can also be treated like VIPs for your stay. We'll get a 2-night stay at Circle Resort and Casino for the entire 12-person league. You can also do your draft at Cabana Stadium Swim with a $5K food and beverage credit. You get a little transportation to from the airport as well, and much more. Contests from May 5th to June 30th, so sign up and enter at sportscamp.com/circa, sportscamp.com/CIRCA. We're also brought to you by MilkDaddy. because my book is a place for every sport. They have the NBA playoffs, they have the NHL playoffs, they have tennis, they have golf, UFC, you name it. They're also available in a ton of locations. Use crypto, bonus payouts, use deposits. When you sign up, though, for your new account, use the promo code SGPN to get a 100% match up to 1K. Terms and conditions apply. Book.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the second round in the French Open. Time to move on into the Lock and Dog picks. Like most Grand Slam episodes, we skipped a couple matches we're going to get back to for the Lock and Dog. For the Lock, I'm going to go to the matchup between Diallo and Griekspoor. And for this one, we are going to go with the over at 39.5 games, minus 118. Every book has 40.5, but FanDuel is 39.5. I'll take the extra game, no questions asked. Now, both guys are good at serving. We know that Diallo can serve bombs. He showed it in Madrid. Griekspoor, though, is a tiebreak magnet, and he's a good server as well. Both guys not the best at returning. I can see a couple of very long sets. Tiebreaker in the match is at minus 275 on DraftKings. So you're looking at what should be at least one set with 12 or 13 games, and that gives you a bunch of leeway for this total. Griekspoor and Diallo, though, have dropped a bunch of sets recently. Griekspoor has lost at least one set in 6 of his last 7, and Diallo has lost at least one set in 5 of his last 6. Think you'll see a very competitive matchup between two guys that are very good at serving. Don't see many breaks in this matchup, and I think that each guy will end up having a moment to win a set. Give me the 4-setter with the breaker in there, which sets up a ton of cushion for you. And I do think you're going to see pretty much 0 lopsided sets here. So based on that, I like the value. Give me the over 39.5 games here as my lock in the Diallo and Griekspoor match. For the dog, going to go with a parlay, actually. Going to go with the Sinner and Gasquet match. Give me the under 3.5 sets. You can go Sinner in straight sets, but DraftKings actually had a cheaper price for the under 3.5 sets compared to Sinner 3-0. I don't know why, but thanks. So I saved about 20 cents by using that instead. I will parlay that with Mensik team total over 18.5 games. That pays out a plus 109 on DraftKings. So Gasquet and Sinner actually played last year in the French Open. Sinner won in straight sets, and no shock there. Gasquet, we know, is up there in years. This might be his final match of his career. Probably should be. He has no weapons. We know that he does like to rally, and he likes to keep the ball in play. However, Sinner has firepower, and he keeps the ball in play. Gasquet, though, can't really serve. He won against Ottman in the first round. I think it's over. So give me Sinner to dominate, but I do think that Gasquet maybe makes one set competitive, probably not. We saw this exact same matchup last year. Sinner coasted. Give me a similar story here. Give me Gasquet to lose in straight sets. I'll go with the under 3.5 sets as the first leg of the parlay. Mensik, though, is a minus 2,000 favorite, so he's going to win, most likely. However, I want to point out that Mensik is a big tiebreaker magnet, which we all know, and so is Rocha, underratedly. Mensik has had at least one tiebreak in 5 straight matches, and Rocha's had at least one tiebreak in 5 straight matches. Both guys are very good at serving, and I do think Mensik, despite being a solid young player, not the best returner, and I do think you'll see at least one set with a breaker in there. Rocha maybe wins a set. I'll say no, but it is possible if you want another potential outcome to win. But I see a breaker in this one based on the recent form, both guys, based on the serving quality and the lack of returning quality. But I do think that Mensik, who's at 19.5 in most spots, DraftKings has 18.5. I see at least 1-7-5-7-6 set here, which is how you're going to get over this. So once again, I'll throw that into the parlay as a sweetener for the dog. So once again, the lock and dog picks the second round of the French Open. For the lock, I'm going to go with Diallo and Griekspoor over 39.5 games at minus 118. That's on FanDuel. For the dog, I'm going to go with Gasquet and Sinner under 3.5 sets, parlayed with Mensik team total over 18.5 at plus 109. Let's wrap it up for the show. Back once again for the third round of the French Open in a couple days. Till next time, find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.